in the opposite sense, I think that's kind of contradictory because if again, you're treating this as like it's an absolute and it's right, like this isn't just something, oh, you're doing it as a hobby, right? It's a real life kind of, you say it's not a book of rules, but it would sort of govern your life in a lot of ways, so it kind of is telling you what to do a lot. And so I think if you were being fully consistent with it, you wouldn't adhere to modern technology or society. Honestly, if you were doing it fully committed, because it's again, it's going to say things that don't align with modern society, but it's also going to say things that specifically tell you it's not telling you to do a lot of things you're doing, but it's telling you to do other things that you're not going to be doing just because of technological convenience or whatever, just whatever's established.
So I wouldn't have a job and I would never have gotten an education and I would never would have moved from Port Arthur, Texas. And I never would have gone to college. All of these things I never would have done if I lived under what you're saying.
So you're saying your religion is secondary to those conveniences, or
No,
it takes a back seat. You
because
just said it.
it doesn't go against the Bible.
Not about
Like,
go against, but it's not enough of a priority that you would sacrifice those things for it if it was really so important.
that's not something that God asks us to do.
But
So
you're
it would be,
framing it. You're saying that you would have had to give those things up.
I'm saying no, because you said, okay, none of those things are in the Bible. Yeah, they're not in the Bible because that wasn't relevant. And it's like, if God wanted to put that in there, that we shouldn't use cars, he would have done that, but he didn't. So if cars are becoming your idol and you're like, I need to get a Lamborghini, blah, 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 then that's an idol. So
But no, like
no.
he didn't say don't drive cars, but he didn't say drive cars. So like,
Well, I would say there's a lot of information in the Bible that is like protective. A lot of the rules, I guess you would say, or like laws, are more you shall not lie, you shall not cheat on your wife, you shall not, get drunk. Like these are not things. And I think it's easier to say stuff like that because if you were just saying you can, you can, you can, there'd be so many things that you can do. Like you can go skydiving, but God didn't put that in the Bible. Um, so
but this topic just
like
makes me feel like it's not being taken as seriously then as it should be, as it's being posed.
I just don't think it would be well, first of all, it's not biblical and it's not necessary
What isn't necessary?
to do what you're doing, what you're saying. Like
Well,
I
what am I
can eat a
saying?
bag of
I don't even know what
Cheetos.
I'm saying because I'm not that familiar with it. But I'm saying, where does it say that you should buy things from big corporations that ravage the environment? Where does it say that you should drive a car that pollutes or whatever? Where does it say that you should do all these things that are overextended factory farms and all these things that
Yeah,
we
yeah,
just
yeah.
take for granted? It doesn't say to do that.
So I understand your argument, but like that's just not the Bible. The Bible isn't saying you can only do these things. It's warning against the bad things. Those are when you say like, oh, the Bible has a lot of rules. Like it's warning about the bad things. Um,
So what if something in society is inconsistent with the Bible? You still live in society, so you just deal with it.
like what?
Like we commit war crimes in the Middle East or something, and you're part of that government still a country.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of stuff like that we just can't control. Like I think the Christian people as a people, we wish we had been able to control a lot in the last couple years. There were so many terrible wars, going on in the Middle East. But it's like we can't really control that. All we can do is pray for our government. And also it says in the Bible to respect your government even if it's like, you know, hard.
What if it was in World War II Germany? Should you respect that government?
Well, it's basically like saying to follow the law until like if it's contradicting the Bible.
So that's the example I was giving you. If it is contradicting the Bible, what do you do then?
You don't contradict the Bible. You move. Literally
You
move.
know? Um, but I mean, there's just so many examples you can point to where it's not going to be consistent. So you can't vouch for everything that's going on around you, but you're still part of it. So is it like the convenience or the established nature of society is more important or more necessary?
Okay, let me give you an example. So let's say I buy apples from an apple company, and I didn't know this, but 10% of the proceeds from that apple company go to an abortion clinic. And I didn't know that, right? I'm buying an apple, whatever. That's not that's not sinful. I didn't know. But also, even if I did know, it's like you can't really do anything about it. Like you can choose to buy a different apple. On the other hand, if I'm working a job and then my job position changes to where I'm going to be helping abort babies, I got to stop, you know? That is direct sin, that is killing. That's what we believe, you know?
So it has to be
So,
direct. So if you're subtle enough about it, you can get away with whatever you want.
it has nothing to do with being subtle. It has everything to do with being conscious. And it's like it's it's about being aware. So like if you're buying an apple, your intentions are not to help abortion, you know?
But if you're part of a society that is in favor of it and enables it in a lot of ways, your tax money would go to partly to programs like that or other
Yeah.
things. So you're still kind of supporting it indirectly.
Yeah, our taxes do, and it's like it's really tough because that's like something we can't control. Yeah. A lot of people try and like invest in stuff just to get their taxes like written off to giving to organizations and stuff.
Or like churches
You
don't
know,
have
can
to
do.
pay taxes, kind of, or how does that work?
Wait, what is it?
Like, do churches not have to pay? There's like some special privilege they get.
Yeah, churches are nonprofit, so they don't do. I don't think they pay taxes, but yeah, yeah, so they don't have to pay taxes.
So is there something that would be vile enough to make you create your own society of Christians? That's kind of the conclusion.
I feel like we already are in a society of Christians. We just happen to live in the United States of America, you know?
But you wouldn't vouch for everything that they do, like
Yeah, yeah. But it's more like,
in
I
their
don't know how to
separation of
explain
church and
it.
state.
I guess so. I
So
guess
would
I
you
would say
rather there
like,
not be? Would you want to see them together?
uh, I don't really know enough about that. Probably not. But because I think like I don't like Christopher Columbus' way of doing it when he was like, turn to God or we're gonna kill you. Like that's awful. And that's not at all how we should do evangelism. But I think like as far as would we want another society, I think that would be cool. But it says in the Bible to not be of the world, but to be in the world. So it's like we're in places where it's not just holy and Christ like and stuff. We're supposed to be like Christ so those people in those places see his love through us.
Or like you could look at it, what would he do if he was here today? He wouldn't put up with this. He wouldn't settle for it and just say, "Oh, we just can't do anything about it." He would make a big spectacle. He would be an activist or some figure, the same way he was back then. Like he wouldn't just sit by and let things go on as they are, right?
I don't know what he would do. I think he was and is like the most peaceful person ever. So, like it says he's the Prince of Peace. So I think in whatever he did or would do if he was like on the earth as a, figure or person now would be out of peace. And he
But he
wouldn't
could do it
be
peacefully, but he would be some sort of protester, activist, or do some movement the same way, right?
yeah, I don't think he would do anything that would hurt people. Um,
But he would change things. He wouldn't just say, "Oh, everything's perfect, so just I'm not needed here." Would he say that?
I mean, that's a really good question. I think obviously he's needed here, but he um he was very intentional about the people that were around him. So I feel like he would come, like if he was here, he would just be really kind and talk to the people that he was physically around. Like he might not even like be present on the internet at all, you know? So I don't know. It's a great question.
Like how yeah, like you would lose that battle to like the information overload. So like people wouldn't take it seriously. They'd say, "Oh, it must be AI," or it wouldn't be. You know, people would find different reasons to disbelieve in this era, right? They
Mm,
would not like if he really did come back and he's doing these spectacular things, right? What would like how would you adapt what he did then to now to convince people or to move people? He wasn't violent back then, right? He wasn't hurting
yeah.
people then. So what is it that he did that made him such a figure and make so many followers? He did these spectacular displays, right? Like walking on water.
Mhm. Yeah, he did miracles. You're right. Yeah, he did miracles. He also preached. So I guess he would do that probably. Speaking and preaching and sharing
But that
his
preaching
love.
would get buried by the YouTube algorithm or buried by other
Mhm.
overload on the news and media. So he doesn't
Yeah.
control the media. So he would be censored or, you see all these
Well,
obstacles.
he didn't have media then. He doesn't need it now, but it
But
could
I
be a tool.
guess how did he get spread his word so much then?
He walked to different places. They traveled to many, many different cities, and like his following was growing so big that, they had to stop and feed people and stuff. It's crazy.
What if he was
Um,
the world's first magician where he put on these tricks that people couldn't explain and then used it to gain?
so these people actually said the same thing in the Bible, and they were like, "Oh, like show us your cool magic stuff. We'll show you our stuff." And Jesus was like, Jesus was like, "This is not for you. Like you're." Basically, they were asking him to prove himself, and he was basically like, "No, I don't need to." It was pretty cool.
Okay, so the original question though, the empire thing, like, okay, there's 2.3 billion Christians, right? So would you use that to validate the religion? Say, oh, there's so many, so that means it must be a good thing, right?
You say 2.3 billion or
That's what
million?
it says, yeah, billion.
Wow, that's awesome. Um, would I use that to validate that Christianity is true? Probably not, because I just believe in the Bible, and I feel like that's really cool and that's an awesome number, and I hope that's true, and I hope it keeps growing. But I don't know, because I guess it would be the same sort of argument if there were five people in a room and two or one person believes marshmallows is the best and three people believe, chocolate's the best. I'm not going to try and convince that last person like, "Hey, chocolate is the best. Marshmallows is totally wrong." And, the only way I'm telling you this is because there's three of us that like chocolate. There's only one person that likes marshmallow. Like, I wouldn't say that. I would tell you all the reasons why I love chocolate and chocolate is amazing and all this stuff. Not that, like, "Hey, look, there's three of us that like chocolate, so," you know what I'm saying?
But would you, let's say there's only, Christianity dies out in its popularity and there's only 10 Christians left in the world. Would you still
Hmm.
believe it or would that hurt the, does it matter how many there are? There could be 2 billion or there could be 10.
Hmm. I think that would definitely be concerning. That would suck, right? But like I would still believe just as much as I believe now. I know what you're asking. Like, yeah, no. My belief would not change.
Okay, now let's trace it back to how we got here. So the only reason why you do believe it is because why? Like in a historical sense, because you happen to live in a country that was conquered by an empire that happened to have that religion and happened to spread it. So if that didn't happen, it might still exist. It might be less known. It might be obscure, right? But you wouldn't
Mhm.
do it because it's a cause and effect. You would be in a place where it's not practiced. So the real reason origin would be from that.
Hmm. So I was doing some research about my lineage actually, and my I guess my great great grandpa, whatever, is from Sweden, came down. They were Lutheran, which has a lot of different beliefs than what I believe. And then somehow through time we got to here, and yeah. Anyways, that's a little sidetrack. But what you're saying is very interesting because there are people even in China that believe Christianity, and they're not even allowed to there. So, like, their country was not conquered by a Christian, you know?
But that's attributed to the spread. It's such a worldwide, well-known religion because there's so many Christians because at one point it was spread. So that's kind of not the point, right? Like there's a billion plus Muslims. Once it's that prevalent, everybody's going to hear about it everywhere. I'm saying, what if it was some obscure, okay, all those countries lost and now it's just buried like some
Yeah.
pagan kind of, it'd be treated like some obscure random thing.
Mm,
Are you a product of just where you happen to be born? If you were born in India, you were saying some dismissive things about Hinduism, like, oh, that's just a cool thing, it's funny, but you weren't taking it seriously. Like, would you be? You might be a Hindu if you were born there and lived there.
right. So you're saying, like, what's the question exactly?
Are you just? Is it just a product of where you
Am
happen
I
to
just a
live
product of what?
and what you're exposed to as you grow up?
I've had a really, I used to really think about that a lot. Like, are people just product of their circumstances or where they were born? Um, so personally, I believe whatever culture I would have grown up in, hypothetically, I would have still come to know God on my own, whether that was through research or prayer or dreams or whatever. Like, I believe God would have revealed himself to me and I would have understood, even if I grew up Hindu or Muslim or something. But, um,
So it could have been a different God, but you would have still believed.
no, I'm saying like I believe I would have come to know Jesus
Uh,
specifically and like the real truth of the Bible.
What if you're in
Um,
some country, like you said, where it's just banned and you're never exposed to it and there are no churches?
That would stink, right? But I don't know. It says in the Bible that God will reveal himself, um, and that people will have the option to know him.
And
So
so you would just discredit other religions though and say, oh, like Hinduism is just kind of cute or whatever you said. Like you don't take other religions seriously then?
uh do I take other religions seriously? Hmm. I think like I know there I know people practice other religions. I think I try to be respectful with other people's religions because I don't want to offend them because if you offend someone, you're not going to be able to show them like how kind Jesus is as easily, I think, you know. So, do I
But how do you
mm,
explain them is basically the point.
how do I explain other religions?
Like
Is
how
that
do
the
they fit
question?
in or how do you
Mm. I think like people want to make answers for questions they have. I think, well, there's plenty of parts of the Bible where it's talking about people having false idols and worshiping like these figurines and statues and stuff. And I think that's honestly a lot of different religions that we have now is these little idols and trinkets and even like crystals and stuff. It's like, no, your peace, your inner peace doesn't come from this little crystal you bought on Amazon that you're rubbing on your hand. It should come from Jesus. So I think between tradition and having an excuse for what is good and what is bad.
but there aren't any sort of ritualistic things that you do, like getting married in temple and certain like what are some of the ritualistic things that you do in Christianity?
I would say like what we were talking about, the Passover with having the wine and the cracker, or I guess it's really grape juice and cracker representing Jesus. That's kind of, I would say that's a tradition. And then water baptism. We believe that if you become a Christian, you should be water baptized, which just means they basically like say in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and they dunk you in the water in front of a bunch of people. That way, all those people know you've decided to become a Christian and change your life.
And then on the Christmas thing that we were talking about last time, like, do you feel like it's been hijacked and corrupted by the modern consumerism sort of society, where that's more what it's about?
Yeah. I mean, I think most Christians do think like Christmas has been commercialized for sure, and it's totally like companies are using it to profit, but also it's just a lot of like, ooh, fun. And, we're not just killjoys, but we do have to keep the main thing, right? Which is Jesus. So,
But so you feel because again, the average ordinary person is not thinking about that, and even it's being used, like I said, that way. So is that not an insult to it, almost?
what, like Santa?
Not just Santa, but the whole gift giving, the consumerism. No, nobody's thinking about that. I am telling you, like even me growing up, like oh, it's just an excuse to give gifts or whatever,
Yeah.
or you don't even have to be Christian. It's nothing to do with
Yeah.
that. The way people treat it.
Yeah. We don't think it's like sinful or anything. I mean,
But
but
isn't it insulting to that they're ignoring that and even using it as a prop for other things that have nothing to do with the purpose of it?
I think it could be seen as like sad or like, come on, man, like this is about Jesus. But if somebody doesn't even understand who Jesus is, then it's like we're not going to be mad at them.
But like, like you should Christians protest that form of Christmas that isn't the real Christmas?
No.
Hmm. Why not? It's totally nothing to do with it, and it's exploiting it for
Yeah.
material gains.
I think it's just it would be kind of counterproductive because you'd just kind of be making people mad. And honestly, the truth behind it is like the reason Santa Claus exists is like Saint Nicholas was a Christian and he gave these little orphans apples and oranges in their
But
socks.
then he even hijacked it because he's that's not
So,
really what it was about.
yeah, it's really not what it was about. But that was like that's where Santa came from. So, at least it has some sort of Christian background. But
But that doesn't offend you or bother you or make you not want to celebrate it, or you probably celebrate it in a more traditional way.
I still celebrate Christmas. And my parents, they used to put from Santa, haha, but really your parents, um,
Uh,
on gifts and
when you
stuff.
were a kid,
Mhm. Just for fun because it's fun,
like they would
And
tell you that there is no Santa when you're a kid.
yeah, yeah, my mom was like, Santa's not real. This is about Jesus, but it is fun to play pretend sometimes.
Uh,
And she would also say, like, don't tell your friends that Santa's not real because some people like to play a game, and their game is to tell their kids that Santa's real and he gives them gifts, and we don't want to ruin their game, so you can't tell them. And so that's just kind of how we grew up.
or do you see an analogy there, maybe that some people would look at religion the same way that there's their own version of that fantasy that's something they want to believe in?
Yeah, so I think that's one thing that's kind of dangerous about Santa and like people lying to their kids about that. Because what if they think like, okay, maybe you're lying about God too? Like that would not be great.
So maybe it is the same psychological process.
I mean, I didn't have to experience that, thankfully. But no, I don't think it is.
Something that people want to believe in, right? But that doesn't
Mhm.
necessarily make it true.
Yeah, but there's not like a buttload of evidence and, an entire book about Santa, flying with reindeer.
There's plenty of books, but they're just considered fiction.
Yeah,
So what if the Bible was officially classified as science fiction one day by scientists or something?
I wouldn't care. I'd be like, whatever, you classify that. I'm gonna keep reading my Bible,
But if
my faith would
it's
not be affected.
you're saying that it's evidence based, you're using that as a foundation. You are like, but you ignore it, like you don't believe in evolution sometimes.
Yeah, I think like there's so many historical um wars and time periods talked about that are also talked about in the Bible. Um so as far as like the historical part goes, I think that's evidence enough, you know.
So just because it references real things that happen doesn't mean that everything it says is true, though, right?
I mean, I believe it's true because of so many reasons. Um
What's your best one reason that you could pitch, like the guy in the forest I was saying, in like 30 seconds?
Best one reason. Mm.
Not so much why you should believe, more like why it's true,
Why is the Bible true?
or the whole religion, or whatever.
Why is Christianity true today? Because I mean, I believe the reason we are here is to glorify God and make his name great. And so it says in the Bible, if the stars were made to worship, so will I. And I believe that is me. You know, I want to worship God well. And the fact that Jesus came for us because he wants to have a relationship with us, and he showed how human it is to live a life and die.
But
Like,
you're being too referential. These are things they wouldn't know about or care about. I'm talking about somebody who has no idea what you're talking about. 30-second, like, what is it that makes it true,
mm.
factual?
But they wouldn't know what history is. So I would
But
just
give us
say,
your
like,
best pitch of, okay, what's the best historical
okay,
event?
66 books, over 50 different authors, over 6,000 years, miraculously and divinely orchestrated, put into one book, translated from 4 different languages into English. It's a miracle it even exists, and the fact that there are so many things that back it up is amazing.
Okay, that's at least a good explanation. But then you could say, why didn't Jesus just write the book himself? Or they are
Because
still
who
written
would
by random people.
I personally, if it was written by one guy ever, whatever, it's just a book one guy wrote,
Oh,
you
so it's
know?
based on the number of people. So now, if today we have a book
Well,
written by 1 million people, that makes it more valuable.
over the course of 3,000 or more years, like that's pretty cool.
But it was
I
like a
would say
collection
like
of letters and stuff, you said, right?
yeah,
So
it's
it's not really being
letters.
written as one effort. It's like they're just kind of piecing stuff together.
Yeah, totally. But if it was written by just Jesus, like as he was on earth, I feel like that would be cool if, in that hypothetical that Jesus is still who Jesus said he was. But I don't think it would be as cool because this shows the perspectives of all of these people that experience all of these things with God throughout all this time. And if it was just written by one guy, it's like, okay, but what if he's a liar, But with
What if
all of
all
these
those people are
people,
liars or they've been duped by liars somehow?
then it would be, I feel like it'd be a miracle for them all to be lying that well over the course of thousands of years.
Or
When
what
it's
is
50 different
something
people that didn't even meet each other. They didn't have technology. They couldn't email.
what is something that Jesus did right?
Did
What records do
right?
we have? Yeah.
I don't think we have anything he wrote. That's a good question. But he talks a lot in the Bible and they quote him. So
Really? Not a single thing he ever wrote.
I don't think he didn't write a book or anything like
He
that.
wrote in the dirt something. That seems crazy though.
Mhm.
Like he knew how to write,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
We
he
don't
did.
have like his school papers or some anything.
Yeah, no, we don't. But he wrote in the sand, so
Bent down and began to write on the ground. What did he write in the ground?
there's actually a lot of different ideas about that. Some people think he wrote down the most recent sins of those priests or whatever because they were about to stone this woman because she committed adultery.
Uh,
And Jesus was like, okay, let the first person start throwing, or let the first person that throws a stone be sinless. Like if you want to throw a stone, you have to be sinless. And then he writes down all of these things in the sand, and a lot of people think like, oh, he was writing down all the sins they had committed really recently. And they were like, whoa, like, okay, fine, we're not without sin, you know. But some people think it was just stuff. Like, I don't know.
So there's not some firm consensus on
Mm-mm.
it.
No.
Are you gonna watch that movie, David, or whatever?
The David movie. I'll probably watch it if I get the opportunity to.
But yeah, it's like I don't know. It's just there's some lacking. You say evidence, but it's like so there's a book written by a bunch of people, right? So that doesn't mean that like just suppose okay, suppose that's not true then. What other thing could you prove? Something tangible, something we have. We don't have his body remains fossilized or something. We don't have.
No, because his body went up to heaven.
So what is something physically tangible that you could point to?
Oh. In Jerusalem, they have different tours and stuff you can do, even of Bethlehem. And there's two different places they think the tomb could have been. You can tour both of them. There's like the place where Jesus's cross was supposed to be, where he like, you know, came from the cross, and after dying and stuff. And so that's possible. Um, so I guess there's like evidence that are physical as well, like there,
But
you
those are
know.
just of the places that those things supposedly happen. Like what proves that they actually did happen?
Uh, just so many accounts, I guess, is what I would say.
So if you were skeptical of people and said, okay, I don't believe these people who have misused and done all these things throughout history that we would question and you know you can look at history that people aren't that trustworthy. There's plenty of times where people have lied and been fooled by
Yeah.
leaders and governments and whatever. So what if it is just one big lie?
Hmm. Well, okay, let me ask you this. What do we have to prove that Napoleon was a conqueror, or that he was ever even royalty?
A lot because those countries were impacted by it. So you can look at the historical record like, oh, why was this country giving tribute to this or why were they conquered or not, the
Hmm.
state of the world changed because of that. So
I would say the same for Jesus. The state of the world changed. Like the people in those local countries and areas and regions were impacted, and so much so.
and then after that, what happened? It was used by governments and power structures, the church, to control people a lot. Like, do you vouch for that feudal area of history, like where it was used as a kind of tied to the state and used for power?
I really dislike the whole thing about the well, whenever they had, religions, like a state religion or whatever, I hate that because it's like, no, we are supposed to be able to choose Jesus, it shouldn't be forced. But I think like it just has to do with, I don't know. Wait, can you say your question again?
Okay, so like feudal Christian kings were monarchs in medieval Europe who were under the banner of using Christianity as a pretense for their power, to get tribute. They were using it
Yeah.
for political power for themselves.
Yeah. I would offer that I feel like politicians do that now too, like saying, "Oh, but I'm this religion, and so anybody that's this religion should also vote for me." And it's just like I can't control that, you know? But as far as Jesus goes, Jesus did impact everything. Even our calendar is based around him. It's 2025 because of him, you know?
But then couldn't you blame and say, oh, so in other words, not only did he not stop these people from exploiting this, but he gave them the opportunity to do it. Because by him introducing this, now future generations and governments were starting to use it as a prop to control people and misuse it and exploit it.
Use religion and
Yeah,
use Christianity.
Christianity.
Um, I definitely think it's not honoring to God, but also Christians can sin. So even if somebody was like, yes, I'm a Christian and I'm running for president, but they do some wrong things, like they still might be Christians and they might just be, you know, in sin, which is not good, but hopefully they would still have the Holy Spirit and know better.
But like that doesn't discredit it somehow that like even if you believe in it, like how I was saying, oh, if only 10 people believed, you would still believe. So even if these governments are misusing it, you don't have to vouch for them, but you still believe it. So like there's a difference between how it's being used and it's like how can we trust then people like,
Hmm.
oh, how can I take it seriously because it's been misused throughout history. Nobody can dispute that,
Yeah.
even if you're saying it's absolute. It's been misused.
Yeah. I mean, it's been misused, but that's the world. Like, the world misuses anything that's good. So, I don't know. It's just like anything else. Like, I don't know.
It's not immune to being misused though. So like what if every time then it's always being misused? Churches just do it now for power, for donations, or you attach
Whatever.
some incentive to it.
Well, if you have ever thought about volunteering for vacation Bible school for 6-year-olds, you will know that there's no power in the church over that because it's just work and you're working for the Lord, like to make his name great, right? And it really has nothing to do with gaining power. If anything, you're becoming meek, right? Like lower.
But you can do some positive things in that, but the overall context is the power of the church.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't see God being used as a way for churches to make money as a tangible thing. I think people could do so much better if they were trying to like hoax people into giving them money.
But
Because
there is
churches,
an incentive to it, right? Like you can see how throughout history and presently, like there is, it's not just like
I think
churches
some
own
people,
land and they avoid taxes and they get donations.
yeah, but like the amount of money churches spend is crazy, and they're spending it on people all the time. So I don't know. It's not like they're accumulating their wealth. And it's also like the churches aren't owned by anyone. They're always changing, you know.
But they're pretty nice and big buildings that they get for
Hmm.
basically
Totally.
free in the sense of tax
Taxes.
exemptions and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially the churches that were established a while back, they definitely have like a lot of savings, which is nice.
So like again, there's a deceptive element that people can misuse it. There's a financial incentive.
But like
There's misuse
the
throughout
people
history.
don't get money. Like I've never gotten money from my church
So they're
ever.
keeping it all to themselves. That's even worse.
No, like they'll provide stuff. Like they'll give us, free lunch or, they'll buy us pizza or whatever. And it'll be for our Bible studies or, you know.
I'm not saying you though. I'm saying like this church itself,
Yeah, the church
higher
itself.
ups and
The most like
leadership.
they spend on is maybe mission trips, which we go and we share the gospel to people. And sometimes we do fun stuff there even, but then we come back. But I highly doubt the entire church is built around paying for bowling at a mission trip, you know?
But there's something more to it. Like again, the skepticism. Why should I trust people? Not even the religion. Like you said, if there's 10 people, you can just believe it on your own. You don't need a church. You don't need anything, right? So why should you believe people aren't misusing it though if they've misused it throughout history? If it's that easy to take it and misuse it, then how can we ever take it seriously?
I mean, that's the hard reality because people do misuse it. And that's why so many people walk away from the church because of people that call themselves Christians, but they don't act like Christ at all. So I would say, like, that's totally valid and that's totally true. People misuse the name of Jesus, people misuse the word Christian, but to me, it doesn't make it any less legitimate.
But then the issue isn't so much, okay, let's say you trust in religion and God, but you don't trust in the church or people. So what
Hmm.
do you do then? What is your path of belief or practice?
I would say try to heal from that. I've had to do that. I've tried to heal from mistrust or not the lack of trust completely. Um, and that's hard because people are awful sometimes. Um, but I think like it really depends. I mean, I've never had someone in my church, murder my family or something. But I've had people in my church be really rude to my family and really hurt our feelings, but not even like, oh, you hurt my feelings. No, like in valid ways. But people aren't God. Like Christian people are not always good representations of God. So we just have to remember that.
So who determines that though, whether you're a good judge? It's all, we're all subjective people. So how can you say, well, they're not good representations, but then who says what a good representation is?
The Bible. The Bible.
But even
Um,
that you misinterpret, or you can misinterpret, or you can, people have
Not
their
really.
own versions. You were doing it just before, like saying, well, it doesn't contradict because of technology or driving a
Yeah, but when
car.
it comes to behaviors, like how to behave and how to treat people, it's very specific. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self control. Those are the things that Jesus says we should live by. So if we're not being kind or loving or gentle, if we're being hateful and, accusatory, those are not Christ like things.
Okay, I'll give you an example. So you're saying some general things that a lot of other faiths or just general people would say, like being kind to people. That's a very broad, vague word. Like, so
Okay.
would it be kinder to, instead of eating 3 meals a day, we give up one meal and give it to charity? Would that be a kind thing to do within this context?
I think it's not necessary. And I don't think, like, it's not necessary and it's not commanded, but I mean, it's a cool idea, I guess. Like,
Wouldn't that be more consistent with it though? Like, at what point is there some accountability to do something like that?
I mean, we have tithe. Tithing is like 10% of your income. Well, some people do different amounts, but my family and me have always learned like to do 10% of any of the money you make should go to giving to charity or to the church or whatever. Just because giving is good and God has blessed us with whatever money we have. So we should bless others.
So what if you take that to an extreme? Okay, you want to sacrifice everything, give up eating to make sure people starving have meals. Like, what if you really take it seriously?
Um,
Or why wouldn't you
well,
do that if that's the model to follow?
no, because then
It's
it's
too
like,
inconvenient for people, is that it?
well, it's kind of like having a healthy horse. If you have an unhealthy horse for less money and it dies in 3 years, or if you pay a little extra money for a really healthy horse and it, dies in 40 years, the healthy horse is better. So, like, I could work for a longer amount of time and help people for a longer amount of time by feeding myself.
Didn't Jesus, though, put his life on the line and his body on the line and willing to sacrifice?
Yeah, but we don't have to kill ourselves to help other people.
But isn't that the model to follow if it's such a powerful figure? Shouldn't we try to be more like that then? And sacrifice anything and everything for what we believe?
Well, like we already are sacrificing the desires of the flesh, right? Like selfishness and all that. So I don't think it's selfish of me to eat breakfast in the morning.
When you know somebody else is starving.
Well, it's like there's also just a part of it that's just about being reasonable. So I reasonably can't go find some random homeless person every morning before
Sure,
I go
you
to
could. In
work.
the modern day, there's all kind of ways. The world is interconnected. You could do it if you really wanted to.
Yeah, but that's not for me. Like I'm already giving money. Well, like I don't tell people about like how I donate or give money, but I'm just saying like
I'm talking about the principle behind it, though, not the specifics. The principle would be
resources.
how could you love your fellow man or you're kind to
Mhm.
other people. So let me interpret the word kind. Kind would mean you can't eat 3 meals a day when someone else is starving because that would be unkind. The kind thing to do would be to sacrifice two of them so two people don't starve that day. That would be my definition of the word kind. So you have to do that if you want to be kind.
I don't think that's right because
But
it's
see,
like
I can frame it that way, and that's a
that's
valid
fine.
interpretation. So there is no one interpretation that you can just say this is what it means.
Okay. Well, maybe let's go back to the filter analogy. Okay. So, like, if kindness is the filter and somebody's calling you a really explicit name, is that through the filter of kindness? No. So, like, if you go back to that, like, you can't be, I don't know how to explain it. I think what you're trying to say is the extreme amount of Bible where it's like, that's not what the Bible's actually saying,
But see, that's you saying it. My subjective interpretation could be different. Someone else's could be different. So
but it's not.
who do
It's
you
not,
get? But how do
because
you
that's not
get
what
to
the Bible
determine
says.
that? It could say the word hate, but you question the word hate, like you should hate your family, but you say
Yeah,
that's not valid. You're
because
going
that's not what
behind the
Jesus
words and
actually said.
adjusting it to your desire or perception.
Well, that's just what I've been taught about that specific passage. But that's why it's in that list of questionable things that Jesus has said. But it's like whenever it's talking about to be kind, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, all of those things, it's saying act in those things in how you treat others. Not that you have to completely like not live or feed yourself in order to treat people that way. It's like when you do encounter someone, treat them with kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, self control.
So there's a certain
Jesus didn't starve himself. Jesus ate with his disciples, with his friends, with his family.
but still so there is no sense of like proactive. Everything you've said today has been like it's not very proactive. There could be the government, you just let it be, you just kind of go along with whatever structure is already in place. There's no self-governance idea. There's no let's break away and make our own commune kind of thing. There's no let's take it fully seriously and sacrifice to our beliefs. There's this like lukewarm quality to what you're saying. Like we do it, we believe, but it's kind of all within a convenient context of the modern society that we live in.
I would say no, because there is lukewarm Christians, but that's definitely not what I am. A lukewarm Christian would, okay, well, here's some really examples that are just black and white. So I don't listen to music that's explicit. I don't say bad words. I don't watch pornographic movies. I don't watch movies that have like absurd amounts of violence, even, or at least I just don't watch that part. I don't, get drunk. I don't even know if I drink. I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm allowed to. I don't know if I
But
want
you
to.
have before?
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I'm 21, but
But there's
it's
nothing that
just
says you can't drink at all.
no. Jesus drank wine, but some people take it to the extreme. But it does say don't get drunk because it can lead you to sin easily. What else? Like I just don't do these things. And some Christians do those things and and they don't have conviction about things that they should, in my opinion. Like they gossip a lot, or they, listen to a lot of like really just questionable music, or like they're just rude to people, but they're calling themselves Christians, but they're not acting like Jesus. And they don't really have that, you know, part of their mind that's like giving them conviction.
So you wouldn't do those things yourself, but you'd associate with people and be influenced by people who do those things.
No, I don't really associate with people that do those things.
Well, you're in this modern society, you would have to. You might not know it, but you're telling me people you interact with every day wouldn't listen to explicit music or might not watch adult films or whatever.
So I would say like I don't let myself be influenced by people like that because like I don't put myself in close proximity to people like that. Now, if I have a class or I work with someone like that, which I do, multiple people like that, it's like that's fine, but I'm not going to be learning from them and I'm not going to be like becoming more like them in any way I can, you know, control.
But is there something you ever protest in society? Like this is something we're against.
I actually did go to a protest one time and it was about like teachers' wages and it was like terrible. Like they were not getting paid very much. But it was very peaceful. Like I just showed up and I was just like, yeah.
No, but I mean that's more general. I'm saying from a Christian perspective, like we're gonna protest gay marriage.
Yeah, I just want to do that because it's like if they're already not Christians, then why are we giving them this standard as if they were Christians?
So you just let them go to hell.
No, I just think like we should talk to them about Jesus. We shouldn't talk to them about how we disapprove of them.
But they are going to hell.
I think people that don't believe in Jesus are going to hell. Yeah.
But no, I more specifically that they, even if they did claim to believe, the fact that they're gay would also mean they're going to hell, right?
I think like I don't really know. I've already talked to you about this. Like I really hope that people decide to believe in Jesus and have a relationship with him over anything. And so yes, like what other people tell me, so I will reiterate to you, but I also haven't really prayed about it very much. I haven't really talked to God about it very much. But it seems like if people are homosexual, they are not believers, is what people have told me. So
But yeah, like you keep resisting that it can be interpreted in different ways. How can anybody subjectively interpret the same thing and say,
nobody can. Nobody can. You're right. Nobody can. So it says in the Bible to not be homosexual. So if people are being homosexual, like actively living that out, even like a Christian, I don't know, if they're actively living that out, then they're going against the Bible. You're right.
no, no, I mean other things too. Like you keep saying it with such certainty, like you've been taught a certain way or you see it a certain way, but you don't see how other people could see it a different way. Some of the same things that you're, some of the same parts of the Bible or New Testament or whatever, it couldn't be interpreted in a very different way than what you see it as. So there's not one definitive meaning.
Um, I think I think even atheists see that section of the Bible and say like, "Oh, it's talking about homosexual marriage." So, I'm pretty sure like the Bible says that marriage is between a man and a woman,
No,
and
no, I'm
that's how
not
it should
talking
be.
about that. I'm talking about in general, any part of it. Any part of it, you'll point to like something. Like I use the word kind as the analogy. So, okay, maybe I take it to an extreme. So, how do you know that's not what it's saying? That you should sacrifice, or how do you know how far you should take it?
Hmm. Um,
Or even on the gay thing, should you be so against it, do you want it to be illegal and actively prevent people from doing it, or do you just not encourage people to do it, or do you just turn a blind eye to it? There's different layers of how you could do that.
it's just like if they're Christians, they can't be gay.
So
So like
you,
if they're
so if
not
somebody's gay,
Christian,
you can't let them in the church.
no, they can come in the church and they can come learn about Jesus. and we'll love them and everything. But if they're gay and they're living that out and not accepting the word of the Lord, then that's bad.
But you said you can't be Christian, but you're still letting them be Christian in the church.
You can come to church and not be a Christian.
What if they intend to be Christian?
Well, we'll talk to them about what it says in the Bible about homosexuality. And we'll say, like, hey, Jesus is better than anything you have in your life, let alone that. So I would say, like, drop everything and come to Christ because it's so much better.
Or like, what if you, I don't know, but like who determines the meaning of something then too? Because if you look at the written word, but then you're kind of interpreting it somehow, or you've been taught it a certain way, so who is the
So
ultimate judge of that?
it says homosexuals in the English, and then in the Hebrew, I think it says a man in bed, and then a woman in bed with one another and
Is
with
a
one
sin.
another. Yeah.
No, no, I'm not talking about that though. I'm saying any other part, any other phrase. You seem so sure of how you're saying it, but you're not seeing that somebody else could look at the same phrase that you're using and they'll see it a different way. They'll do something totally different than what you're saying
Okay.
based on that.
I mean, I'm sure there are people that m- have different thoughts about stuff like that. Like, not that specifically, but I know what you're saying. There are plenty of times that I've done Bible studies with people and we've seen it like, oh, I see this, or oh, I see this. And one of us is like, well, maybe I'm wrong. And then one of us are wrong and we look into it more and
So who
so it's
determines what's right then?
I mean, you just have to look at the context. You have to look at who Jesus is as a character. So like, I don't know if it's going against the rest of the Bible, then you're wrong.
But there could be several different subjective interpretations of the same thing that maybe none of them go against it. So who is the authority on this ultimately? You'll defer to the church or the pope or somebody.
I mean, you can always ask questions to your pastor and stuff.
But what makes
Um,
them absolute and their interpretation right?
it really doesn't. They're just people too. But all we have to do is like keep trying to seek truth. Like, I don't know. It's very rare that I've had a question that hasn't been answered.
But how do you know that's the only answer? How do you know that, oh, he wouldn't want you to take it further? He wouldn't want you to protest gay marriage instead of just being indifferent to it, or he wouldn't want you to actively do something more.
Because Jesus is the Prince of Peace.
But protest is peaceful.
Yeah, but it's not loving.
It could be you're
It,
trying to save them from going to hell.
I don't think it's loving to tell people that they shouldn't be. I don't know. I don't know, because I don't think protests are seen as loving, even if it's out of love.
But the end result, you're confident is good and the right thing, so why should you doubt?
Mm, I just don't think it would be received well.
So you could do it in a nicer way, but it's still like your ultimate goal is you would be against it.
Yeah, but you could just have like an actual conversation with that person. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. Try to
So
see.
yeah, I'm just thinking of like, what if you take it to an extreme, right? Somebody, oh, they were following the Bible or they believe they were, and
Mhm.
they go so far as to they're gonna steal, they're gonna be a Robin Hood and they're gonna steal from rich people and give it to people who are starving. That seems like a kind thing to do. So they're doing
Mm,
it in the name of that.
mm. Um, yeah, I think that's just like there's there's good ways of going about doing good things, and there's bad ways about going going about doing good things. So we just want to do the good version.
But sometimes that's what it takes. So like, where does it say that specifically that you can't do that?
I've just never had that happen in my life where I only have the bad option, you know?
But like, what if Where does it say? Like, give me a line then that would say you can't do that. What I just said.
What, the giving to the poor?
Yeah, like if you steal from rich people and give it to poor people.
I mean, do not steal. Like that's literally what it says. So
Well,
it's
what if
it
you feel they
it
stole
doesn't
from
say
people?
why. It doesn't say why you were stealing. It says just don't steal. It's not that complicated, you know?
Or like, what if you're a vigilante and you're killing criminals who otherwise would not be caught?
mm, yeah, no. Still don't kill.
But you're letting them kill.
I mean, you can defend people and like self-defense and stuff.
Even if it leads to killing them?
Yeah.
Oh, so that is okay?
I mean, like, yeah.
Huh. So you can kill. So thou shalt not kill, but there's an exception.
No, no, no. It says thou shalt not murder.
No, it just says kill, doesn't it?
It says murder.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone always quotes that. Thou shalt not kill.
Mm-mm.
You shall not murder. Do not murder is a moral imperative in the Ten Commandments. Okay, what are the Ten Commandments?
The Ten Commandments. That is like a huge part of
No, I mean, you
when
should know
you
them off the top of your head, shouldn't
um not necessarily.
you? Really?
Don't judge me.
No, those should be
Um
so obvious.
I think like I can try and put them down. Let me think.
It does
I
say
think
thou shalt not kill.
yeah. No, thou shalt not murder.
It says both, but
Because murder has malice in your heart. Like you pre-planned it. Killing is like different. Anyways, okay, so the ones I remember off the top of my head. Have no other gods before me, which is like don't have idols. Don't use my name in vain. Don't say
or
OMG.
like let me try to do it, but let me try to rebut each one, and you don't have to respond. So the first one was what?
Don't have any other gods before me. Don't have idols.
So an idol could be the Pope or other figures in the church.
And then it says don't um say my name in vain.
Even though people do that all the time, even people who aren't religious, right? They always say Jesus or oh my God or
Mm-hmm. It says honor. What does it say? It says like don't commit adultery. It says don't lie. I'm pretty sure. Don't lie. Don't cover your neighbor's plate, which is like don't steal.
isn't it covet?
Covet. Yeah, yeah. And then um,
But
what are the
ask them for
others?
donations in church.
Yeah, but that's not going to a certain person. That's going to the people. That's just like a club. Like if you have a book club and you're like, okay, everybody donate
What if they
for our
steal it
books.
or it ends up going missing or you don't know exactly where all of it's going?
But that's not like the Bible. That's not the Bible's fault. You know, that's not
It's
God.
enabling people. It enables the church. So
But
if a
people are
pastor,
corrupt anywhere. People are corrupt anywhere. So if you're saying like, oh, the church is so corrupt, no, people are corrupt everywhere.
but the church is
And
not immune to that, so it doesn't get any special credibility, and so we should be skeptical of that and the religion itself, then, right?
no, because I think if it's consistent because people are sinful, it makes sense. Because Christian people are sinful too.
But so it doesn't give them any special credibility then to tell other people what to do or to be so holy and
Well, it actually says we shouldn't judge people that are not believers. We should correct people that are Christians, but we should not judge
no, but
people that are not
there's some
believers.
hierarchy of credibility. Like, why should we trust a priest or a pastor? They're sinners too. They could be liars too. They could be doing all these
Yeah.
bad things.
They should be being held accountable, right? Like there should be other people checking up on them, making sure, they're being healthy mentally and spiritually and stuff. Sorry, I think it's almost 7:30. Do you know
Oh,
what time it is?
yeah. Okay, here, just to go through these then. You shall have no other gods before me.
Mm-hmm.
You shall make no idols. Even though a cross is kind of treated like an idol, isn't it? You shall not take the name of the Lord of your God in vain. Keep the Sabbath day holy. So what is that?
Like have rest and
Sabbath
be
is
with
Sunday?
God. Sunday or Saturday.
Oh.
Some people have their Sabbath on like Wednesday. So it just
Does the band Black Sabbath offend you by their name
depends.
or
No, but
how
that
they
is
use it?
funny.
Honor your father and mother, even though it also says to hate your family. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal. Tell me the next two.
Mm, I really can't
Or you
remember.
already said you shall not covet the wealth of your neighbor.
hmm
So tell me the last one.
Is it? mm,
Something
Did
also
was it
about
the
your neighbor.
lying one?
What is it?
Love your neighbor as yourself.
No, it's like you shall not bear false witness against
Oh,
your neighbor.
yeah, lying. Yeah.
So what's the most important one out of that?
Uh, to love God and love others.
That's not one of them, though, is it?
Not having any gods before me. I don't know. Tell me.
No, I mean, what's the most important one to you? I'm saying.
Oh, it says in the Bible, like above all else, love God and love people.
Now,
That
are
is the
these
main message.
in the Old Testament, the Ten Commandments, or the New Testament?
They are in the Old Testament, but they are not contradicted at all by the New Testament.
Hmm. Or like even couldn't the Bible itself be considered an idol? Like you're making it into such a big deal.
That's an awesome question. So you could say theology can be an idol, like the study of God and like all of the fancy words that you can find the definitions to and stuff. But the Bible itself, I don't think it can become an idol.
You don't think what?
I don't think the Bible can become an idol if you're truly like. So theology, I think, can become an idol, but I think the Bible can't because it says like the word is God and the word was God and the word was with God.
I think
All
anything
that
could
stuff.
be like you can turn anything into an idol if you really obsess over or worship it.
Yeah. Yeah, but like God is it says the word is God and the word was with God in the beginning.
So what do you actually do for Christmas last thing?
We pray and we talk about the Christmas story, but we get up in the morning, we have Christmas presents and we see everything and get excited and mostly we just spend time with our family and hang out and eat food and yeah, it's fun.
What's the most like Christian specific thing that you do? Is there some
We will sing like Christmas songs that are about Jesus specifically, and we'll do Advent. So we'll like count down the days, and sometimes we'll read the story of Jesus in Luke chapter 3,
Oh, is
which
that
is
what these
whenever,
advent calendar things are that people keep showing up?
usually, yeah, with the chocolate and stuff. But yeah, there's just a lot of fun things that we can do as Christians just to remember like different stories in the Bible about Jesus's life and stuff, like here on earth.
Is there
Yeah.
something you have to do?
Not really. No,
You just
no,
set up
we
the
just
menorah
like to.
thing or some display or something.
No, but that's cool. We don't really have to do anything. It's just like we like to.
All right. But yeah,
Good
next
talking
time
with
for
you.
sure, I'm not gonna ask you anything then. We can just go straight into the reaction stuff. Because it always takes so long to do this.
Okay. Next time I will remind you and I'll be like, no, no questions.
Okay, bye bye.
Okay, bye.